Hey guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast with myself and Ben. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm good, thanks.
Good stuff. Today we're going to be doing giving our predictions for the upcoming Premier League season 22-23. Obviously, it's a follow-on from last week where we did a transfer talk looking at the new players coming into the league and some deals ongoing between the clubs. But this week we're just going to be giving obviously standard predictions, top four, relegation, top goal scorer, that sort of thing. I think we'll kick things off with just diving straight into it. Obviously, the big one is sort of who's going to win the league, who's going to be in the top four. We sort of touched on that towards the end of last week, but now we've had a bit of time to think about it. Ben, kick things off with you. Who's your top four for this season?
I'm gonna go. It's the more the bottom, the like third and fourth. I'm gonna back City to win it because I've got to back. I've got
to back your team, yeah.
The team. Then Liverpool second. Then third Chelsea. They're making signings and Tuchel's a good manager. And then this is probably the superstitious side of me, but I think I'm gonna go with it. Depends on the signings as well.
You're gonna go with Man U, aren't you?
Yeah. If they make the signings that they could be or supposed to be making, then I'll be a bit more confident. Well, not confident, but like this would like be a bit more like But yeah, United fourth because Ten Hag, I think, is sort of being underestimated how good of a manager he is. I think he is a really good manager, and the style of play that he plays is really good. So yeah, I think I think United could all do it. To be fair, but I mean, yeah, obviously it depends on the signings as well. But yeah, United.
Yeah, because I definitely agree with you in that they need to make more signings to sort of cement. If they are going to go for top four, they need to make more signings because at the moment you're looking at Ronaldo going out the door with only bringing in that Tyrell Malacia. I mean, that is terrible business. I think we touched on it last week as well, but their policy of just bringing in the players that Ten Hag knows is not really going to cut the mustard if they're going to try and push for bigger things. And for that reason, I've not included them in my top four. I think as I said last week, I was more excited about what Man U could do last season than this season. Because obviously Sancho, flop, players like that. But yeah, for me, obviously I'd agree. City and Liverpool top two. I just think City will have too much again this season, and nobody's going to push Liverpool for second place, I don't think. But I'm actually going to go Spurs number 3, and then Chelsea number 4 just. But Chelsea was kind of a weird one because obviously we had a lot of Chelsea slander last episode. I still don't think they're gonna do very well this season. I just think they'll have too much above Arsenal and Man U. And obviously Spurs for me, definitely third place. With the signings they've made, I know they've spent a lot of money on Richarlison, but I still think he's a great player. And I think he'll do very, very well learning from Harry Kane and Son. And I think him and Kulusevski as the third striking option will be just a deadly combination for the upcoming season. So yeah, for that reason, gone Spurs 3. 5 and 6, Arsenal, Man U. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's my 5 and 6 obviously would be Spurs, Arsenal. Spurs could quite easily get top 4, like you say. Their signings have been fantastic, and Conte is a fantastic manager as well. Like, he's a quality manager. It's like I say, it's the more superstitious side of me that can't put United any lower than 4th. But I just can't bring myself to predict they'll do worse, and because then if they do better, I'll just go like, fuck, So like, if I predict them to do better and they do worse, I'm like,
that's a win, yeah.
Yeah, but it's with Spurs, like, they could quite easily get top 4. Like, Conte is a top manager. And with Arsenal, I know they've made signings and stuff. I don't know what it is about Arsenal because they've got a decent team, and Arteta's obviously a half decent manager. But for some reason, whenever I look at the squad, it always gives me a Europa League feels. That's just the feeling I get from the team. Not that they couldn't push for top 4 because obviously they did last season, but it just I don't know. There's something about something about the squad that just gives me that Europa League feel, that's just not quite Champions League yet, sort of feeling.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. Whether it's because of sort of the youthfulness of the side, or maybe it's the fact that you just can't see Granit Xhaka playing Champions League football. One thing or the other, I just wouldn't put Arsenal in the top four, and obviously both of us are pretty much in agreement on that. Just before we go any further, you guys, if you feel like you disagree with anything we're saying, please drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this, especially if you have some wild opinions. Man City and Liverpool not finishing in the top two, then yeah, we'd love to hear about it. Maybe Chelsea will push on if they make a couple good signings. But yeah, moving on, we've sort of covered the top six, and we're both going for like the traditional big six in English football. Do you think there's any teams that could surprise us this season? I mean, like we've really not sort of touched on the West Hams, the Leicester, anybody like that. But these teams over the last couple of seasons have definitely pushed the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely West Ham. I mean, I know they've got Europa Conference League football, but they won't really concentrate on that as much as they did the Europa League. So if they keep up their sort of current trajectory or current form, keep the consistency, West Ham could maybe break that top six, get Europa League football maybe. Leicester, they obviously had a bit of an off season last season for where they've been at, but if they can turn it on again, then they could easily push for top six. I mean, sort of I think we speak about Aston Villa with some of their signings, if they can get the consistency, but it's just about whether they can get the consistency or not. A lot of the teams, and then I mean, you would think like Newcastle, but they've not made that many signings yet. Like you would have thought that with maybe they're just working on it or something.
Yeah, I guess they're working on it. They've got Botman in, haven't they now? Yeah. Obviously they've got Nick Pope. He's proven Premier League. You'd expect more business from them, given their owners.
Yeah, like I think depending on who they sign, like they could be pushing for top six. Like Eddie Howe's obviously a half decent manager, and then obviously when you're signing these players who are improving your team, you're obviously going to make your way up, push your way up the league, bit by bit. But like at the moment, obviously they've not made that many signings, so we don't know. But they're still in decent form last season with the players that they had, so they could maybe not top six, but they could push up the league a little bit, even with the squad that they've got. But yeah, in terms of other teams, I'm not sure. Yeah, Wolves maybe. I don't know.
Oh no, that might be a stretch. That might be a stretch.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've maybe not top six, but I think they'll be definitely in the mid-table. Wolves, like they've got a half decent manager and a decent squad. Like it's definitely a Premier League squad. So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, maybe not not top six, but yeah, no, like Wolves and teams like that, they'll be easy mid-table. Like, is it Southampton?
Yeah.
Well, Southampton are actually quite inconsistent. You don't really know what you're going to get from them. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's sort of one of the side effects of having such a strong Premier League over the last couple of seasons, really. Like teams like Wolves with Raul Jimenez, Jose Sarr in goal. They've got real quality, but again, I wouldn't really tip them for more than sort of mid-table mediocrity, really. But yeah, as I say, that's just a side effect of having a really strong league. I think we'll move on to kind of one of the big talking points of the coming season, but sort of who's going to be the top goal scorer? Obviously, we've seen a lot of players come in. The Premier League's retained a lot of talent. Mo Salah just got a big new contract, kept hold of pretty much all the other mainstays, besides obviously Lukaku, but then he never really showed he could do it last season, so why expect that he would this season? So I just want to hear your thoughts. Top goal scorer?
Again, this, I think it's a full podcast. It's a pessimist in me, but because obviously we've got Haaland now, but I think I'll go with Salah. I think with, like you say, with with a new contract, and then obviously Mane going, he is like, I mean, he already was the main man, but he is the main man in that Liverpool team now. So everything will go through him. Like all the creativity will come through him, or mostly through him anyway. So yeah, I'd back Mo Salah for top goal scorer.
Yeah, he's got a proven track record as well, doesn't he? He knows the Premier League inside out. You know he'll score a lot of goals. But I've gone for a bit of a different one. I think this would appeal to you more as a Man City fan. But this might be a bit of a controversial one as well. But I've gone for Erling Haaland. Obviously, everybody knows his quality. He's never done it in the Premier League before. He's only ever done it in sort of, well, we know the Bundesliga, Lewandowski, world-class striker, but he scored an insane amount of goals in the Bundesliga. Timo Werner and Kai Havertz scored an insane amount of goals in the Bundesliga and weren't able to sort of replicate it in the Prem. But I just think Haaland, because he's done it in the Champions League, and you've seen the sort of raw strength, raw speed that he's got, I can just see him scoring 30 goals this season, especially with the talent in behind. I mean, you know better than anybody. De Bruyne, Foden, Grealish maybe if he kicks on, Mahrez, Bernardo Silva. I can see Haaland just scoring goals for fun. And it makes me very nervous as a Nottingham Forest fan, knowing that our defence of Steve Cook, Joe Worrell and Niakate is going to be up against Erling Haaland 2 games this season. Yeah, so I just think he'll do it. I just think he'll do it.
I mean, that would be lovely. That would be lovely if he did it. Yeah. It's just I'm a pessimist, so I'm always thinking, there'll be. I mean, not saying he won't score goals because obviously he will because he's a quality striker, quality goal scorer. But I'm always like, there might be that bit of transition phase where he's getting used to us and we're getting used to him, so he might not hit the ground running. And then it'll be, he'll hit, start scoring the goals a little bit more later on in the season. So, stuff like that. But yeah, no, it would be lovely, obviously, if he got a top goal scorer.
Yeah, I know you don't want to jinx it either. You're not going to go Haaland top scorer and then he ends up with 5 goals. Yeah,
no chance.
But yes, a sort of a similar one. Obviously not directly correlated as we've seen in the past seasons, but who is going to be player of the season next season? I mean, like I mentioned just then, there's a wealth of talent in the Premier League now. So it's going to be a very tight competition at the top, hopefully anyway. So for you, who's going to nick it?
I've got to back my boy KDB. I've got to. I mean, he's been there. Obviously, I think Salah won it last season, didn't he?
I thought, yeah, he did. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, Salah won it last season, but I think he won it the 2 seasons before that, and he was. I guess he was technically second last season. Like he's been there consistently for 3 years. I mean, consistently before that, but for this award particularly, he's been there, for 3 years consistently. So yeah, I've got to back my boy KDB. But I mean, obviously, unless he gets an injury that could, scupper his season a little bit. But yeah. Kevin De Bruyne for me.
Yeah, that would be my second choice. I've gone for a bit of a wild one. Harry Kane. Now I know this is going to get a very bad reception because Kane does get a lot of slander, but I just think him leading the line, and since I predict Spurs to finish 3rd anyway, I think they could do very well in the league, especially if they don't get out of the group stages in the Champions League. I think they could have a really good league campaign, and especially because Conte likes his striker to push forward. We saw that with Lukaku at Inter. I think Kane could easily get 40 goal contributions, 20 goals, 20 assists. And I think if you have a season like that, you have to win player of the season. And I think Kane could do it.
Yeah.
He's done it before, but now in a team that's significant. It's probably the best team Spurs have had in a very long time. And I think Harry Kane, prime Harry Kane, where he wants to play at Spurs, because obviously we saw last season there was a whole thing about him wanting to leave, but now he wants to play for Spurs as well. I just think he'll be unstoppable this season. I think definitely a player of the season contender.
Yeah, he was definitely starting to pick up form as well at the end of last season. So if he continues that trend, that trajectory, he could easily do that. But yeah, nah, Kevin De Bruyne for me.
Yeah, no, De Bruyne was my second choice. It's very close between the two. You just know that De Bruyne is going to bag this season, especially with Haaland in front of him.
Yeah, you'd like to think that he'd get all those assists that You know, he should.
That Sterling kept missing, yeah.
Oh no! I'm not here to slander Sterling. He's I like Sterling. Obviously, like you say, obviously he missed a few chances and stuff, but he's a winger, so he's never meant to like score all the time. You know, he's supposed to chip in with a few goals here and there, but he's not supposed to, you know, be an out and out goal scorer. But
is Mo Salah not a winger then?
Mo Salah is an inside forward, isn't he?
Come on, Sterling at left wing. He's definitely an inside forward.
They call him something else, don't they? They call him like a left forward instead of a winger. Because I do think Sterling is more of a winger than Salah. Salah's more of a forward, but like I mean, obviously, like yeah, Salah's a by far better goal scorer than Sterling. Don't get it wrong, but I think Sterling's still a good player. Still, still a fantastic player. And like, yeah, I mean, I think maybe what works against him is that he had that. A few of his misses have been quite high profile, which doesn't help. It's not like, you know, you missed against, I don't know, who do we play? Peterborough United, you know, in the League Cup. It was like, you know, high profile Champions League misses. And then he also had that purple patch where he just seemed to score for fun, and then obviously that, you know, so that didn't help either. But yeah,
it's just consistency with him, isn't it? That's the main problem. Yeah. But no, anyway, we'll move on. Bit of a niche area this is to sort of predict, but are there any players that could surprise you this season, have a real breakthrough season? Maybe some people aren't really considering them as potentially having a great season, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, with us obviously selling Jesus and Sterling, and I mean, I've seen City fans bang on about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do think he's got potential, but I've seen City fans bang on about this so much. It's in Cole Palmer. Like, obviously, there's a place there, you know, in terms of someone playing on the wing, like a player there who, you know, there's a position there that a player can play, because obviously Sterling, Jesus are gone. I mean, obviously got other players, but there's still that opening. And City fans obviously have been banging on about Cole Palmer, being like, yeah, we don't need to sign someone. We've got this guy as a replacement. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I do think he has got potential. I do think he is good. I don't know if he'll be quite ready or you know, quite up to speed, but it could be one of those seasons where he does a bit like Foden did a few seasons ago, where he sort of starts to, you know, to get feathered in a little bit, you know, getting a little bit of game time net here and there, and sort of just gets eased in a little bit this season. So maybe, you know, even though obviously City fans have banged on about it quite a lot, I would agree that, you know, there is a potential there for him to be a surprise. I don't know.
No, I'd agree with you. He's quite a tall player, isn't he? I think he's 6'2", 6'3", something like that. Cam, right wing. Obviously, very similar to Foden in left-footed, come through the academy. And yeah, I agree. There's definitely a place in the squad now. Don't know whether he'd start ahead of Mahrez or Foden or Grealish, but I mean, you never know with Guardiola, really, do you? Anybody could start. So yeah, I'd definitely say Cole Palmer's a shout. Not one I was expecting. But yeah, definitely a shout nonetheless. And I feel like we're just pandering to our own fan bases now, because I'm going to go with Forest player, you're a City player. But I think Brennan Johnson, a surprise of the season. Obviously, he is being talked about more now because he's obviously scored for Wales against Belgium. He's talked about because he's young. Man United were interested in him. But I just think with 28 goal contributions last season in the league, he could set the Prem alight, and especially because nobody was really backing Forest anyway. I just think he'll be the one that if Forest are going to snatch a 1-0 away win against Wolves or somebody like that, Brennan Johnson will be the one. He's got pace, agility. He's going to be the main man in the Forest team. Just giving him a big new contract. He's the star boy essentially. Yeah. I can see him surprising a few and even getting top 10 in the goal scorer charts for the season. And I think that would attract a lot more, sort of build a lot more hype around him, attract a lot more interest.
You'll have a few teams sniffing around him then.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Well, if we do, at least we'll get an absolute ton of money for him.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I was talking about this with one of my other Forest fan friends the other day, Nick, and we're saying at the moment he's got to be valued at least 40, 50 million. With his age and his position, his goal scoring record, he's got to be worth a lot. And if he has a good season, that will only go higher. Yeah,
60 easy
minimum. So if Forest manage to stay up and a big club comes sort of sniffing around for him, I would not mind selling him for that, like sort of 60, 70 million. It would be like Grealish for Villa. Villa sell Grealish and they go and buy an absolute ton of.
It's always, it's always a risky one that you know, when you have a player like that who's like a talisman and then you sell him. Obviously, it's fantastic for the club's finances, but in terms of on the pitch, you can't. It's very difficult to, because you usually see it. It's like a team sells a talisman and then they sign like 5 players trying to replace this guy. It's just impossible to replace him. So you have to be, you know, like, I mean, it's like, I mean, obviously, if the club's clever about it, then they'll have, you know, options in mind and they'll be like, right, this is the guy, and that's what we'll go with. It won't be the same, but he's good enough, you know, he'll do the job. But yeah, some teams like this, you know, try and sign like 5 players and like one of these.
And we've seen in the past with Spurs a few years ago when they sold Bale and they brought in like Lamella, Paulinho, Eriksen, a bunch of others. Now you hear Eriksen, you think it was good, but they bought about 7 players with the money and then they finished about 8th or 9th in the season in the league. Yeah, we've seen it before. Villa didn't have a particularly good season last year after selling Grealish.
No, I mean they I think they obviously didn't have a particularly good season because it wasn't terrible, it wasn't amazing, but they were a bit better, went a bit better about it because they signed Buendia and were like, he's just going to be the replacement. That's it, you know. And then we're going to run with that and, you know, see if that works. Obviously, signed other players with the money, you know, around other positions, but for that position, they're like, right, Buendia, done. Like, so they're a bit. That was a bit, you know, a bit of a better way to go about it. But you know, it's even then it shows it's difficult when you lose a talisman. It is very difficult on the pitch.
Yeah. No, I agree. And sort of a follow up to that, but obviously more team based rather than player based. I think we just about touched on it earlier, but are there any teams not necessarily pushing for top 6, but any teams in the league where you think, okay, no one's really expecting much from them, but they'll go and do something that's really good anyway? Obviously, you know who I'm going to choose, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It does look. It's a bit of a weird one, really, because this season. It does look like the promoted sides do have a lot better of a chance of staying up, basically, of you know, doing something. Because I mean, obviously, previous seasons they have done it as well, some of them. But like with Fulham, Bournemouth, they've obviously previously have been in the Premier League. And you know, Bournemouth have got Scott Parker, who's, you know, shown that he's a half decent manager. Fulham have got Marco Silva, who obviously struggled a little bit from time to time, but you know, got promoted, won the championship, so obviously he's got something about him. And I mean, obviously they're going to want to not do what they have been doing, like Norwich have been, is getting promoted and getting relegated, promoted, relegated, sort of try and stop that cycle a little bit. And then obviously with Forest coming in, like Forest have got that history. Like Forest are one of the sort of historical top sides, so they've got that behind them, and they've got a good manager in Steve Cooper. Like he's shown he can do it in the Championship with Swansea, wasn't it?
Swansea and then Forest.
Got them to the playoffs, and then with Forest, who last season were sort of struggling.
We were bottom before he took him. Yeah,
brought him in. There you go. There's playoffs. Win the playoffs. You're in the Prem. Like, so, you know, he's a half decent manager, and you've got, like you say, you've got you know, a good squad. Like, I mean, obviously, it's not going to be like setting the world alight, but it's a good enough squad, you would think, to stay in the Premier League. So it would be you know, does look exciting for sort of that side of it. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, go on. I'll back Forest.
No, yeah, love that. Music to my ears, mate. You keep going as long as you want on this Forest hype train. Yeah. Obviously, I'm going to go Forest as well. With the bookies' favourites to go down bottom of the league, but
I think that's harsh.
It's so harsh. It's just because we went up with the playoffs last season and we lost.
Yeah.
We lost obviously Garner, Spence, Davis, a few others with just because they were on loan. I mean, we've spent 60 million already. We've got a young squad. We just signed Nico Williams this morning.
Yeah.
And I can just see us getting to like 13th, 14th in the league, which doesn't sound too impressive, but for newly promoted, it's pretty good. Yeah. And then I can just see us. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think it seems like they're not taking your squad into account really with that. You know, that it seems a bit, a bit harsh.
Yeah, it is very harsh. I think they're just going off the fact that obviously Cooper's not managed in the Prem before, regardless of him being an exceptional manager, probably the best manager of the three that's been promoted. And yeah, our squad losing half of our first teamers with loans going out. But yeah, like I say, we've bought Nico Williams, Omar Richards, Niakate, Awani. We've bought a lot of really good quality players. Dean Henderson on loan. I mean, that's not talked about enough. He's kept Sheffield United up before. And if Sheffield United can stay up in the league and have a good season with Billy Sharp and David McGoldrick up top, then Forest can do it with Brendan Johnson and the rest of the quality players that we've got. And I just think the backing from the owners as well. Like Marinakis said, he's going to put 100 million plus into the team this season, and he doesn't want to just stay in the league. He wants to go on and do bigger things. I think Forest got the pedigree and the fan base to really push on and make a good effort of it.
Yeah, it's all about sort of that progress. So obviously you've been promoted this season, then this season you sort of solidify your status, and the next season you push on a little bit, and then maybe in the season after you maybe push for Europa Conference League or something like that, and Europa League, or the season after Europa League or something like that. A bit like Wolves did. I mean, Wolves. I mean, they were a bit of an exception, weren't they? But
they established themselves. They're established now. I think Villa could be a good example actually, because obviously they only got promoted 3 years ago. They've had 2 seasons in the Prem. The first season survived, which is what I think we'll do. Second season, just under mid to just bottom half of the table. But look at the players they're signing now, and we're talking about them pushing for European football. I see no reason why Forest can't do the same.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking like Wolves are the exception, because I think they basically had like a Premier League team already, because they got promoted and they had Ruben Neves and
they had Neves, they had Diego Jota. At the time they had Cavallero, Helder Costa. They had all these players. I used to watch Wolves in the Championship. Ruben Neves was insane.
Yeah, did they get Europa League straight away?
First season we got Europa League.
So yeah, bit of an exception in terms of that, but I mean, you're not wrong in terms of sort of comparing it to Villa a little bit. Yeah, but I think that they, like you say, they just about survived the first time round. I mean, I don't know if it'll be that close with Forest, and then obviously mid-table next time around, and then obviously kicking on, signing these players, maybe going for European football. So yeah.
Perfect, mate. That's 5 minutes of just gushing over Nottingham Forest, and I'm very happy with that. On a slightly more negative note, are there any teams that you think will have a massive flop this season? I think we'll cover teams and then players, but we'll go teams first. Is there any team that you just think?
Yeah, I mean, based off the last podcast, the sort of consensus was Leeds, wasn't it? Just obviously they've lost Calvin Phillips, and looking like they're going to lose Rafinha, and they obviously are signing players, but I mean, it's like we were saying before. It's always difficult when you lose these your talisman. I mean, obviously Rafinha was the talisman in terms of forward play. Well, goal scoring, assists and stuff. But Calvin Phillips is your talisman. Is your homegrown player. Local lad. So it's always difficult when you lose those type of players. But I mean, obviously we don't know. Maybe these signings they make will hit the ground running. But on paper, it would look like they're going to struggle. But yeah, like it is exactly what we're saying. Sort of, when you lose these talisman type of players, it's always difficult to replace them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I would actually be more generous towards Leeds since the last video we did. Obviously, in the last video, they'd forked out a lot on sort of Brendan Aronson, Rasmus Christensen, a couple of players like that. But now they've just signed Tyler Adams, looking like they're about to sign Luis Sinisterra. They've actually got a better side in my mind than, well, at least when they did this time last week. And whilst I believe they still will be in a relegation fight, we'll get to it a bit later, but I've actually got rid of them as part of the three relegated sides. Yeah. Yeah.
I've not really followed the transfers as closely. So yeah, you'll have to.
It'll be very interesting to see. I just know that Tyler Adams came from Rebel Leipzig, captain of the US men's national team. I mean, I think he was vice captain behind Pulisic or something, but he's a very good player. Sinisterra, they're getting very cheap, and he's been a fantastic player as well. But yeah, for me, this will be another controversial one, but flop of the season team-wise, I'm going West Ham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very interesting one, I know. But I just think they've got Conference League football this season. They've not made any signings yet, apart from that. What's his name? They've Aged or something. They've signed a central defender for about just but again, he's unproven. They've spent big money on central defenders before with like Issa Diop, players like that just haven't done anything. And I just think their squad, it was too small last season to really make a fist of it in the league and do Europa League. And they've not signed a striker yet. Mikel Antonio is getting on, and he had such a good season last season because he started well, because he was too big, too physical for the defenders. I think teams will adapt to how Antonio plays. I don't think Bowen can have as good a season this year as he did last year. Ben Rama fell off really badly. Obviously, they've lost Mark Noble. Mark Noble wasn't a starter, don't get me wrong, but they've lost his presence in the dressing room. And I just think they'll be the team, but I still think they'll finish between 12th and 8th. But I just don't think a lot of people are tipping them for pushing top 6.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll do that at all.
You're not wrong, because I mean, when we were talking about who was pushing top 6, it did half cross my mind. It's sort of like West Ham. It could be a little bit of sort of that sort of mental fatigue sort of thing, because they have that's 2 seasons now that they've been playing at their peak. For like, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying like they've been playing really well for the squad that they've got, and where they were before. So they obviously got Europa League a couple of seasons ago, Conference League last season, went really far in the Europa League as well. So yeah, there is that potential there for there to be a bit of mental fatigue, actual fatigue, just from players that have been doing it like that. And so there might be like you say, a slight drop in the standard. Doesn't mean that they're gonna, fly down the league, but like it might mean that they are, like you say, between that 12th and 8th spot, mid-table sort of thing. So yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Mental fatigue's the sort of the key word for me. We saw with Leicester last season, they'd had 2 seasons of finishing 5th in the league. They'd done like a European campaign, and they just were completely drained. Obviously, they had injury problems as well. But I think if West Ham lost somebody like Declan Rice to injury for a little bit of the season, they're not going to be very successful during that period. Declan Rice is kind of the main man in the team. He's the captain now as well. I think they could definitely struggle. Yeah. Moving on. Flop of the season, but player-wise, I'll start with mine this time, because I just think it happens every year they go up, and every year people think he's going to score a lot of goals. But I just think that Alexander Mitrovic is not going to do it in the Premier League. He never has been able to, and I don't think he ever will. I think the only way he succeeds at top level is going to a team like Marseille, just not top of the league in their own division, but in a bit of a farmers league, play a bit of European football. That's the only way he succeeds.
Yeah, no, I can see that. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, no, that is a good one actually.
But
Um,
like, you know what I mean? He scored an
yeah,
absolute hatful of goals last season
yeah,
in the Championship,
yeah,
but he does it every time he's in the Championship.
yeah,
And he
yeah.
comes up to the Premier, it's the same thing. Fulham, he can't do it, and then Fulham go and sign 3 or 4 terrible strikers just to play above him. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
you go back down and then he's the main man again.
exactly. It's like Tom Kearney. Him and Tom Kearney will stay at Fulham for probably their entire careers. They'll never do it in the Premier League, but they'll always get the team promoted from the Championship.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah, no, this is the one that I hadn't come up with anything because I just couldn't think of a player, but I can back a Mitrovic.
Yeah.
I think that is a good one. That's a clever one. That.
What are there any? Let's say just off top of your head, any signings that have just come through where you just think, I don't actually think they'll be that good. I mean, for me, my backup was, I know the Sterling slander is unreal on this video so far, but I was going to go Sterling because I just think that he doesn't add that much more to Werner, and Tuchel will rotate a lot. But is there anybody for you that you just think?
No, that's not like I'm trying.
What about Darwin Núñez? You think he'll have a good season?
It could be a bit like Haaland, like he might not hit the ground running. Like there'll be a bit of him getting used to Liverpool getting used to him, and I think he probably will be rotated a little bit more than Haaland, because Liverpool have obviously got, you know, I mean, Haaland might be rotated, but like we've not got a striker. Like Liverpool have got Salah, so you would think that Haaland would be, a certain starter. Núñez might be a certain starter as well, or at some point, but you think like maybe he'll be rotated a little bit more. But there could be like you say, that little bit of sort of getting used to each other sort of thing. But yeah, I can't really. Yeah.
Can you see him starting the first game of the season? Obviously, they've got Salah, Diaz, Jota. That would be my front three if I was Jurgen Klopp. Do you see him having to sort of force his way into the team, or does Jurgen Klopp just trust him and go, "You're the main man now"?
I mean, maybe he might start the first game of the season, but I don't know if he'll be like certain starter all the time. Like he might be like, dropped in here and there for the first little bit, and then he might start to get consistent games a bit later on. But yeah, no, like you say, like Diaz, Salah, Jota, that should be your front three. But yeah, I don't know. Like like even with Sterling, like obviously, like I say, he doesn't like provide that much different to like Werner and that. But I mean, like we've been saying, he's a good player, and I'm sure I'm sure he'll score goals. I don't know how many, but I'm sure he'll score goals, and he will improve Chelsea. But like you say, how much I don't know. And then obviously the sign of the players. But I mean, for sure that Sterling and Jesus will score against City next season. That is
it's bound to happen, isn't it?
That just will happen. Just hopefully Haaland scores a hat trick in that game.
In both of the games, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's yeah. I think it is an interesting one because obviously Chelsea got rid of Lukaku, bringing in Sterling and other players, but they've not really brought in a striker. It seems like they've gone. I mean, obviously, they seem to want like they want Sterling, they want Ake. There was a little thing about Zinchenko, so like they want City players, and they're going to play a false nine. So it's like they've gone, oh, City, you've done stuff.
Yeah.
We'll try it. Go on then.
Back four next season now as well. Just watch.
Yeah.
They'll have a back four, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they're going that way. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, interesting one, that one. We'll finish off with who's gonna get relegated. I mean, we've spoken about Forest in sort of a positive manner, so I'm hoping neither of us have. Well, I know I've not chosen Forest to get relegated. I'm hoping you haven't either. Yeah, we'll kick things off. I'll give my relegated sides first because obviously I mentioned Leeds a minute ago. But as one of the teams I don't think will get relegated, I think they'll just narrowly scrape it. But yeah, I think bottom Bournemouth, absolutely. They've made one signing off the top of my head, and it's Joe Rothwell on a free transfer from Blackburn.
Yeah.
He wasn't exceptional in the Championship. He definitely won't do anything in the Premier League. I think they'll really struggle. Then I'm going Southampton in 19th. Now, everybody's very excited to see Southampton play next season because so far they've spent a lot of money and they've got a very young squad.
They're signing loads of youth players at the moment.
Yeah, but like if they're signing, is it Romeo Lavia from Man City?
Yeah.
They signed him for 14 million. 14 million. We spent 17 million, and we've just got Taiwo Awoniyi from like the 5th top scorer in the Bundesliga last season for almost the same amount of money, right? You can't. He's not going to do anything in the Premier League. He's not Premier League proven talent, and I mean you'll know more about him because you will have probably watched him more.
Yeah, I mean
23s or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, 40 million probably. Well, it is a lot for a youth player. I mean, he was one of the ones that you were thinking he could break into the first team. Like he looks decent. Like he could be like. I mean, obviously they've signed Calvin Phillips now, but like he could be, a future Fernandinho replacement sort of thing if he, continued his progress and sort of kept up his consistency. Because I mean, me and Kieran went to watch City v Wickham last season, really early in the League Cup, and he just played a youth team basically, and Lavia was playing holding midfield, and he played really well. So me and Kieran were like,
but doing it against Wickham is a bit different to doing it week in, week out.
Obviously, there's a difference, but yeah, that like there was the potential was there basically. But yeah, that is a lot of money, and probably well, it is too much for a youth player. But if he can realize his potential, then they'll be like, well, yeah, fantastic. But like, it's obviously a big if.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's and I know we've got a buyback on him as well. I think.
Really.
Yeah. I mean that shows you the potential. Like I think that we've got a buyback on him, but like you say, is he going to do it in the Premier League? I don't know. And then obviously they're signing these other youth players. It's it's a difficult one. Obviously they've decided to go down that route of getting youth, but it's always a risk. Like obviously, young players can do it, but when it's always a hit and miss because like they can be so inconsistent. But yeah, no, it's like Southampton it's a difficult one because they are already really inconsistent. So like they could they usually go on a winning run of like 5 games and a losing run of 5 games and then they just end up mid-table. So like yeah, I mean maybe they don't have that winning run in this season, but I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it's just Southampton are one of those teams. They're not a massive club. They've never been really particularly big club. They're not like, if you think back to the original Premier League and sort of the Premier League era and the old First Division era, Southampton were never one of the big clubs, and they've survived in the Prem by sort of nurturing young talent and selling off at a profit. We've seen that so many times, but I just think they're clutching at straws, and I think this new generation of young players they've got, with the exception of Tino Livramento, because I think he's exceptional, this new young generation of young players they've got are not going to do it. And I think, especially if they lose James Ward-Prowse as well, I think they're going down for certain. There's been, over the last couple of seasons, so many times where they've looked like they're going to get relegated, and I just think this year will be the year, especially with the amount of competition in the Prem. And then finally, number 18, Fulham. I think they'll go down. They've not made many signings. I think they're about or they have signed that João Palhinha, who's Portuguese international. He looks great. He looks like a great player. And they've signed Andreas Pereira from Man U as well. 2 good players, but they just don't have a big enough squad or a good enough squad. And whilst Marco Silva's a good manager, he'll probably be sacked before December. That's just what Fulham does. And yeah, I think they'll go down.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
What about yours? What about yours?
Mine. I mean, you persuaded me about Leeds. So I've Bournemouth, Fulham, and from last time I think we said Brentford. So, like I think I mean, you know, they could like you say, they could easily do like a Leeds and you know, just about survive. But yeah, they've got to choose someone. They've got to choose
Yeah.
someone. And I don't really. I mean, maybe have they signed players? I don't know. I don't really know.
They signed Aaron Hickey so far, who, don't get me wrong, Aaron Hickey's fantastic, but
Yeah.
he's probably the only player, if they lose Ericsson, that's of real quality in that side. Most of their team's championship. It's like I talked about Leeds last week. Like Pontus Jansson is not a Premier League footballer. Brian Mbeumo is not a Premier League footballer. Like their midfielders are Janelt and Norgard. I think they're not Premier League footballers. I think they'll really struggle. But I think for me, they'll just stay up.
Yeah. 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 No, that like yeah, I don't like I say, don't really know about the signings and stuff. But if like you say, if you don't make any more or many more signings, they could they could struggle. So yeah, got to choose someone. So I'll go with them from last time. And you know, Leeds were in there, but you persuaded me about them. So
okay, yeah. No, I just think Leeds will do it, and yeah, just about stay up anyway. But yeah, I think that just about wraps up today's video. I think we've covered basically everything, any sort of areas that we can really predict anyway. So yeah, make sure you guys, if you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe if you're new, and drop your own predictions below. I'll sort of do like a little checklist of which predictions we've done, and you can sort of match and compare. But yeah, I think that'll do it for today. Thank you for joining me, Ben.
no problem.